that believe that finding a point guard for the Boston Celtics is going to cure all their problems. My favorite part about this whole interaction has been, okay, name me the point guard you would like to have. And it's always Chris Paul. And I'm like, yeah, okay, like, sure. If you could add Chris Paul to this team, or what's the other one that everybody likes to put, DeJounte Murray. Like, we hadn't talked about DeJounte Murray at all. And I love DeJounte Murray. I just don't see that as like kind of feasible. I think the Spurs should keep DeJounte Murray. Like, I just would build around that. So I don't really find that as a viable solution. People are throwing Rubio at me, and I'm like, no, Rubio. The ship has sailed on Rubio. The idea of Rubio was wonderful, but the actual Rubio itself, there's no point guard out there that like does Malcolm Brogdon is not as good as Marcus Smart, sorry, and is hurt way more. The guys that people offer to me as explanations are bad. And this comes back to a thing that Seth talked about earlier. And I think we've all maybe spoken on this, but I know Seth and I have talked about this. If you take Marcus Smart out of the point guard position, you automatically devalue your team. Because it's what Marcus Smart might not be a point guard, but he guards point guards, and he allows you to guard up and guard down on the entire roster. Marcus did an amazing job against Giannis, guys. Like, for a guy that's 6 foot whatever, the fact that he can hold his own against Giannis is amazing. He's never afraid to mix up with bigger guys. And the thing that blows my mind more than anything else is the fact that people can't see that Point Tatum is the future. Like, LeBron James never happened. Like, Kevin Durant's never happening. Like, Giannis isn't doing the same thing. Like, Luka's not doing the same thing. Like, James Harden and Houston do the same. Like, if you can find, and like everybody's like, well, too many turnovers. Like, yeah, because Jayson Tatum's 24 years old, and you up against like the top 3 defenses in the NBA all in a row. And it's the first time you ever did that. So I would prefer if you gave the ball to Jayson Tatum and let him play big point guard and survey the floor versus finding a distributing point guard when your biggest problem is scoring more points in the half court. Like, it's not about ball distribution. They have guys that can do that. It's about half court offense, and getting a ball distributed point guard is not the answer for that. And I fought people all week. It drove me nuts. And I'm pleading with you guys.
I wish you were more passionate about this, Evan.
It's ridiculous. So I had 200. I've never had more interaction on a tweet in my entire life. I had 220 people reply to me, or 220 replies to that particular tweet. And the fact that the majority of them did not get where I was coming from drove me through a wall. And I just need people to understand that, like, Point Tatum is where this team needs to go. This team needs to be built around that to maximize itself. And once you realize that, and that this team is more about staying big defensively with all the guys on the floor at the same time, you'll finally catch up. But it drove me nuts the last 2 days of the week. I could not believe people didn't get that.
Seth,
Corey, you wanna?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, but like you would think, like in this video, like there's gonna be comments that think I'm an idiot, and I'm just here to tell you I'm not. And if you just watch the highlights of like big point forwards, you'll understand where I'm coming from. It's not about a guy that can get everybody into the offense and get Jayson and Jalen easier shots.
Guys, whatever. They don't need a point guard. They just
not what it's about.
Davison anyway.
What?
I said they just drafted J.D. Davison. They don't need a point guard.
That's my
He's
second
only
hot
19,
take.
guys.
That's my second hot take. My second hot take is that the Celtics just draft Dennis Smith Jr. at 53.
I hope you're right.
Because
do you?
I watch him, and I'm not saying he's Dennis Smith Jr., but like if he had Dennis Smith Jr.'s career, getting that at 53 is not bad. I like the upside. He's working with lethal shooters, so he's getting better at that. He needs way more seasoning at being an actual point guard, but he's explosive as hell, and that's fun. And to get that sort of trade at 53 isn't bad. And
the hair's great.
I'm not over the David Roddy thing, but I'll get there. I'll get there.
I thought J.D. Davison was Gerald Green. That's what I thought it was. Part 2, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, we'll find out.
So I forgot. So after hearing you, Evan, I forgot that there will be comments to this. So this is, I mean, the Marcus. I feel like the Marcus Smart like deniers. Like it's like the QAnon people. Like it's just ridiculous. Like you can't really speak to them. Like we've talked about this, over text, and I don't like. I really don't understand it. It's like almost like a sociology experiment. Like with this one human being, people cannot understand that he is imperfect, right? Why can't he be a good basketball player, good point guard, average shoot? Why can't he just be a good basketball player and be imperfect? Like, do we do that with any other player? I mean, I don't understand it. We were I was at Kaufman's house for Game 6, and at some point during the game when they were getting killed in the third quarter, and I looked down and said, Marcus Smart has not attempted a three yet. Like, what will people complain about? He has not attempted a three in this game, and they're losing by 17 points. Like, it is just amazing to the point that I think you just have to tune them out. Like, he's a very good basketball player. He's a very I guess it is. He's a very good basketball player, right? He's imperfect and he's very good, just like really all of them. He's part of like a larger team structure, and he's very valuable. Why can't we just leave it at that? He's on a good contract. Like, it's just the whole thing is just dumb. It really is dumb. And it doesn't matter what position he plays. You're right. Point Tatum is the future. He's just a good basketball player, and you want good basketball players on the floor. Can't it be that simple? Like, why can't it be that simple? He's a good basketball player. He's a tremendous defender. He's not just a good basketball player. He is an all-world defender. So what is the point? Because he's not a great three-point shooter? I mean, it's maddening. It's maddening that Celtics fans feel this way about this guy who is literally throwing his ball all over the court every night. Like, it's.
One might even argue they're not Celtics fans. Like, are these people? I don't know. I just have always had this theory that, like, if you have decided that you're against Marcus Smart, I just would like bet my life that you're not watching these games. Like,
I think there's Celtics fans. Maybe they're not really good basketball fans. I think there's just a misconception about what it takes to be a good player, like how you bring value to a team. Right. And I think that in 2022, if you're not shooting, 44% from three, you suck. Right?
Well, I mean, we don't need to go down this rabbit hole, especially in the interest of time. But I mean, look at the first go around for Al Horford. Like, most people, I won't say most people. Well, you know what? Screw it. Most people like didn't get it. Most people were like, this guy stinks because he doesn't average 20 and 10. It's are you aware of who they just signed? Because he's never averaged 20 and 10. Like, that's never been his game ever.
Yeah. The reason why it bothers me to this extent is that, yes, if the Celtics are an average team, they're not playing meaningful games in the playoffs, and you're basing your opinion on like a Tuesday night game against the Hawks, then fine, right? But you're talking about if you're in the playoffs, everyone's watching all these critical possessions, you're seeing it analyzed every day, like, what the value is. Don't freak out when this guy has a bad shooting night. Like, it's just like, and then devalue everything else he does and say he needs to be traded. Every time I see an article that says, what should the Celtics do a point guard this year or next year, I lose my mind. Like, what are we doing? Like,
it really is kind of amazing when you think about like all these years where we had all these other smaller point guards, and he was like forced into and he was like game for all these different roles, right? Like, he played shooting guard, he played backup point guard, he guarded power forward sometimes, he like did all this different stuff. And over again, you look up the numbers with him at point guard versus him at shooting guard, and they're better every year. And then the first year we actually like really let him sink his teeth into full-time point guard, we go to the finals. It really is just kind of like amazing.
Yeah. And you can't blame. I mean, he had a couple tough stretches in the finals, but I can't think of any game in say. I mean, there was that one game where we kind of debated it, where he took the 2 threes. They missed the three. They off the. I can't think of really any of the spot where it's like, oh wow, Marcus Smart really lost you that game. I mean, there were high turnover games, but there were high turnover games for the team. They're all throwing the ball over the place, right? It's not just him. So like,
I mean, more often than not, it was the Jays. Right. Like, for all they did well, but more often than not, the Jays had like, I don't know what the percentage is, but 40% of your turnovers? Like, pretty damn close to it.
More than that. And it's just because they're inexperienced at doing that kind of stuff. Like, Jayson Tatum has never done that. Like, and that's what bothers me. It's like, you guys don't even watch the game. It's like Tatum is doing an amazing job navigating double teams like this on this stage for the first time in his career. And you guys don't want him to do this anymore? Like, what world are you on? Like, Jayson Tatum's going to have the ball in his hands at the end of games. That's what you want. You want him making the decision. It reminds me of that LeBron James pass to Kyle Korver in the corner that everybody gave him flack for because he didn't take the shot. But guess what? That was the right play then, still is the right play now. You want a guy like that controlling the tempo of the game. And then Kyrie comes down the next possession, jacks up a shot way too early, awful shot. Everybody criticized Kyrie for that too. But it's like the idea of Point Tatum getting more experience and getting more comfortable doing that is going to be how this team takes like Giannis is terrifying for a multitude of reasons, but the most, the hardest version of the Bucks to guard is when Giannis is spraying the ball all over the floor and everybody else is killing you, because Giannis is going to drop 45. It's about everybody else getting good looks, and when they're all getting good looks, you're going to lose.